brighter than light. He'll give you strife. He's Todd. He's tall, he's mean. He's labeling machine. He's Todd. Rides a motorbike. He'll tell you what it's like. He's Todd. Don't know what he'll say. He'll scare the kids away. He's Todd. He's Todd.
Why this? Why not this? So every year about this time, I'm over in Hawaii, and I'm usually doing the AFSIA show, or working really hard over there, bosses. But I can't be there, so why not change things up a little bit? So I appreciate you joining me this morning. Aloha. And we got a great day today. We got a special guest. I got a new best friend. I got to tell you, Jamie and Bruce and the guys, you're out of the circle. Blake's now back in. You guys are dead to me. And go ahead and call HR, because I guarantee they still got your numbers blocked. So anyway, we got a special guest, and one of the things I'd like to start doing with BS with Todd, Brother Solutions with Todd, is inviting industry-specific people on. On December 3rd, I actually have a real live brother that's going to join us. And don't take that out of context. It's actually my brother, the adopted one. Well, he claims he isn't, but I know otherwise. So anyway, my brother Sam has been in the industry for many, many moons, such as myself, and he's going to be very specific as far as active networking components. But today, without further ado, all right, we got Mr. Blake Urmos. Blake, are you there?
What's up?
Hey, good to see you.
I didn't know if you could hear me in the background laughing.
Oh,
I had to put myself on mute. What's going on, man?
You know what? It's just another Thursday in paradise. Blake is I caught Blake actually while I was cruising LinkedIn, and I saw a video he made all on his own, and I'm like, who? And number one, it's like, this guy's going to put me out of work. But there is a rule with BS with Todd. I do not allow any guests on that are any more handsome than I am. So I got to tell you, Blake, you made it. All right. So with that being said, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about just labeling in general today. And a lot of the episodes that previous episodes, I talk about ANSI TIA 606C standards, and obviously those have evolved throughout the years, and we're not going to go into the weeds about the particular areas of those standards. We're just going to talk labeling 101. Blake has done a fantastic job with the Brother Industrial Solutions so far. His videos are fantastic. Catch them on Low Voltage Nation. I know, Blake, you've used some of the competition out there, right?
Oh yeah, I've been in the field quite a bit using the competition, and as it relates to the Brother and workflow, I'm a huge advocate for optimizing workflows. I'm like doing things quicker because I'm lazy, I guess. I don't know what that is, but one thing I noticed, and obviously I'm going to sing the praises of the Brother because I love it so much. You guys have seen my videos and all the content I'm pushing out, and this is what we're doing. But it optimizes the workflow quite a bit. So that's huge for me. But yeah, as it compares to the competition, I just haven't found one that is easy enough to use, like right out of the box, and then moving forward to more advanced stuff like serialization and other functionality. There's no other that compete, in my opinion.
Well, and that's some of the same stuff that I sit behind my desk and basically BS about every week, Blake, but you're getting it from a biased standpoint. Now,
right.
Prior to this, like you, I was out in the field. I actually used to work really hard for a living. And same thing, you want to be one and done. And labeling is kind of near and dear to my heart from a contractual standpoint or a contracting standpoint, is that Back in the day when there was lots of money to be made in the business, I was still kind of a tight ass. And so, every little piece of tape that was being wasted, every little brick of tape, every zip tie sitting on the floor, or mislabeling or errors in labeling, where I had to send my guys back to fix an error or to fix a label that may have dropped off anything, that was costing me money. Now, that was during a time back in the day when, there was lots of money. We were going, from type 1A, to ABAM to, Cat 3 and then Cat 4 and then 5. And so there was all of this change going on in the industry, and people were really willing to pay for it. So things have now changed, obviously. And so one of the things I tout is a one and done scenario. Do it right the first time, right? Make sure you got everything right. If you're working from a spreadsheet, make sure you check your work, obviously, for any type of fat fingers. But what I'd like the folks to hear out there, and I appreciate your your support, on Low Voltage Nation. I appreciate that. And, but what I wanted to do primarily from a labeling standpoint, all right, getting in there and making sure the work is done right. I wanted to kind of get your perspective, and you gave us a teaser just a minute ago, but from a contractor out in the field, and I don't care whether it be security you're doing or if you're doing, datacom infrastructure outside plant, but I kind of want to get a take on the importance of doing it right to begin with, the ramifications of doing it wrong, right. All right. And then moving on. So, Blake, from your perspective, how important is labeling?
Well, it's obviously incredibly important. There's a subsection of Low Voltage Nation called Documentation Nation. it's all about getting that spreadsheet, getting your run book, your project run book, having all the blueprints and everything. I'm a huge fan of like Bluebeam, AutoCAD, and from the very beginning, having everything laid out, all the devices, all the cabling, have that laid out properly. So when you go to run the cable, install the devices, you have a run sheet where you can do all your label and documentation from, and that gets transferred to the patch panels, the wall plates, the cable. Like everything needs to be documented. And if you don't document, like the guy behind you and the customer, they're going to struggle. It's going to waste time. You're going to have a hard time installing stuff. It's just so important. I can go on about the importance of documentation and labeling.
Well, that's also a part of 606C that a lot of people really don't follow through with is documentation. And so the whole point behind labeling is that you may be the initial contractor going in there hired to do the job. And we hope that end user is labeling it to, the 60C specifications. Now, some installations out there have their own tribal knowledge, their own carnal way of doing labeling. Right. And I have found that a lot of times it's tough to convince them to change only because everything in that campus has been labeled, with that tribal carnal knowledge,
sure.
Right, if you will. But let's just hypothetically say that a contractor, a subcontractor goes back in for some MAC work, right? Some move, add, change work. Number one, if it's 606C and they know 606C, they should be able to identify those widgets, if you will, whether it be tracing, from a workstation back to the closet. That's the whole idea behind 606C. So whether or not you're using the tribal carnal knowledge or the 606C, the point is if there's no documentation, then at the end of the day or the end of the job, you have this contractor that's chasing around the IT guy, right, or the facilities guy, trying to find him to figure out what goes where because there is no documentation. So number one, documentation, like you said, man, is crucial. Now, if you're using your own, tribal knowledge of labeling, again, if it's documented, that's a hell of a lot better than, again, finding the guy with keys or finding the IT guy to kind of map everything out. So it all starts with a label. Now, labeling has been around forever. The caveman used to etch it on stone. That's when it started. I'm telling you right there, right? But it's come a long way, and I'm still seeing some of the old labeling out there, Blake. I'm seeing Sharpie on duct tape. It still exists. So it's important to have the right tool for the right job. Now Sharpie is not part of 606C.
No.
Duct tape, none of that is. So, what Brother brings to the table, I feel, and really this isn't the sales pitch, this is going more into the job from start to finish, is the ability to do the job on an Excel spreadsheet, download it into the PTE 550, which I hear working in the background, and then working off of that spreadsheet. There's still going to be times where you have to take that 550 and you have to manually input it, right?
Right.
But the 550 with its capability of downloading a database into it is going to save a lot of time, a lot of money. And when you have mitts like this with these little buttons, you're more prone to fat finger stuff. So, and that's what I really think Blake has touched on. And I watched a couple of his episodes where he's building some racks and he's doing patch panels and stuff like that. And, Blake, I'm telling you, the way you use this thing, it's fantastic. And I've seen some of your work that you've done, specifically on the patch panels and the workstation outlets. I'm going to give you a couple minutes, man. And if you want to kind of go through from a contractor end user standpoint on how you use, specifically, we're going to talk about the PTE 550 today.
Yeah.
We've done other episodes on some of the other printers, but I think this is Blake's favorite printer. So, Blake,
it is.
You got a couple minutes, man. If you don't mind just kind of firing through some of what you do there in the studio and out in the field.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So, the Brother printer, it got on my lap because other people in Low Voltage Nation, the guys that do like the real big infrastructure jobs, the structured cabling jobs, people like Chris Tiffany and Abe Brown, they introduced me to it, and Theron Forker as well. Those guys are awesome, and they're in the field all day long, and they love this thing. So what I ended up doing is to get familiar with it. So Chris Tiffany posted a video on TikTok from Sprinter IT. So Chris Tiffany, he showed how to do the serialization and then go through the workflow of when you run your cable, you're doing your pre-wire, make sure you print out, your cable wraps or your general labels, and then actually label your cable. A lot of people just do Sharpies during the pre-wire, which, Sharpies, as we know it, they come off the label sometimes, and that's not good. It does cost more to do pre-wires with your cable, but it helps in the long run. So doing the first, the cable wraps, and then, once you're ready to do the patch panels, it all just flows over. So you do your serialization, which is awesome. And then it just flows over. You keep pressing these buttons and printing, and then boom, you're done. So that's the biggest workflow optimization that I found with the Brother printer. So just from a general contractor's perspective on, first, they're cheap. The labels are pretty cheap. The label printer's pretty cheap too, but it's such a good device, and it just makes things so much quicker. And like you said, with the spreadsheets, and there's a mobile app you can use to walk around the building, to just print directly to it. As you're kind of walking the site, if you need to do a plate real quick or something, you can quickly just get that done through that mobile app. So there's all these little things, these little tricks that I've learned from the guys that are actually doing it in the field on a daily basis, and it just speeds things up so incredibly fast. So from my perspective, just I'm not in the field anymore, but I used to do hospital data centers and nurse call systems. But now seeing these other people use it so much, it's pretty incredible.
Hey, so what I found interesting, and I learn something every day. I haven't been out in the field since about 175 pounds ago, and so Blake showed me something interesting pre-show, and it was a strain relief. And Blake, do you have that handy?
Yeah, I do actually. So this is my lab environment when I got familiar with the actual workflow of the printer. So as you can see, this is a strain leaf with zip ties on it, and you got your cable wraps, get your wall plate, and then the face plates. That was all done with that workload I was talking about. But yeah, these 48 port patch panels, this is a shielded 48 port patch panel. This one has a strain relief on it, and we like to put it down with zip ties. Can you see that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, that's I haven't seen that kind of the cable management before. So, I learn something every day in this industry as well. Now, speaking of something and learning something and introducing something new, I'm going to run something by you, Blake, that I haven't run by you before, and just hear my thought process out, because I've tried it before and it seems to be catching on. Auto ID. Now, when I talk about auto ID, all right, the way that we do stuff now, right, is we'll walk up to patch panels and, we'll physically take a look at the IDs on the patch panels. And, it's all good until you get old and you can't see anymore. So one of the things that this machine will do, and one of the things that I keep touting more, is auto ID, the ability to utilize, your camera or a scanning device. So hypothetically, all right, let's take a look at this scenario. I walk up to this particular rack, all right? There's a QR code somewhere on the rack, all right? And on that QR code, I've got everything listed. I've got the type of fiber in there. I've got the type of copper in there. I've got the date of installation in there. I've got who installed it in there, all right? And you can scan that with your phone and all that information comes up. Now, let's take it a step further. Let's go to cable management, if you will, the ability to walk up to a cable on the backside, all right, and scan that cable. And it basically tells you specifically in, either a multi-campus environment or in a data center, but you scan that flag, you scan that cable wrap, and it automatically will tell you the routing of that particular cable without any type of toning identification. So from a contractor side, Blake, is that something that may work for you? Is that something that can be expanded on? Because again, and the reason why I say that is we have the capability of doing auto ID, all right, and incorporating that into, I see it becoming real big in data centers. I don't know, man. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. Anything that does it automatically, auto increments and optimizes the workflow. Yeah, for sure. We could totally use that.
All right.
You got to show me how to do that on there. I'm not familiar with that functionality though.
I tell you what, there's a .com up in the Bay Area, a real big one. We all know it very well. And the reason why this whole thing came about is that they weren't using 606C. It was their own tribal knowledge, carnal knowledge. Right. They were using 1.5 inch flags, dude. But the thing is, it had 6 different lines of information per flag. And so, even if you were a contractor going on the backside of that 7x19 or 4-post or whatever, you really didn't know what this was. All right. Right. So the other thing is, from a liability and security standpoint, they didn't want any alphanumeric verbiage on the labels. So it's like, okay, let's see what we can do. So I came up with a flagging system that essentially basically had the routing everywhere, all right, to where somebody could scan it with their iPhone, all right, and it would tell me where this particular cable from patch panel 1A, port number 1, blah, 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 routed through the whole system. And maybe that's an episode that you and I can do down the road. That's something you and I can talk about. But I can tell you this, man, it's really easy. So auto ID, we think, is going to be kind of the next wave of things to happen. QR codes are coming back, which is fantastic. And there's some variations, and I've got previous episodes on that in case you want to bore yourself silly. And go take a look at those things. So do me a favor, all right? That's kind of enough about Brother for at least 30 seconds. I want to hear and tell me a little bit more about Low Voltage Nation, if you don't mind, because I'm, you and I talked a little bit about it, and I just give me kind of a 30,000 foot view of Low Voltage Nation and what you're doing out there, man.
Sure. Yeah. So when I was in the field, I wanted to find people that were doing like really good structured cabling work and like access control and cameras and stuff. Because if you've been in the field and most of the data closets are like spaghetti cable messes. And I wanted to figure out who was doing like the good work. So I got on Instagram and there, lo and behold, there's a huge community of structured cabling enthusiasts on Instagram. So I just started DMing people, and then I got them on a podcast, the Low Voltage Nation podcast. And that's really where it all started. So the mission statement, and you can't really see it, it's kind of blurry, but it says we built a community to help other people carve out a fulfilling career path in low voltage and technology. So, was scratching my own itch, trying to find fulfillment, trying to find, a way to do things better. And by interviewing people on the podcast and then building a community around that and creating ambassadors, but then helping the next dude. And that all goes back to like documentation, like help out that next guy that comes in behind you, be successful and enjoy what they're doing. So that's like the big mission. And that's kind of the genesis of Low Voltage Nation. We have weekly meetings, we have podcasts, we're doing some YouTube stuff. We post a lot of content. We do resharing of good work of the ambassadors in the community. And we also have a paid subscription product as well that we launched back in June this year. So, and we're doing meetups, not right now, but that was a big part of it, was to have meetups where we build up the racks. We show people how to do labeling and terminating and everything. So there's a lot going on right now with the weekly meetings, podcasts, and then the meetups. Hopefully 2021, we'll be getting back on the road and visiting everybody around the country and helping people out. So that's where I'm at.
My wife is hoping the same thing. She's got her fingers crossed for 2021 that I can get back on the road.
Yeah, I bet.
Well, I went from going 100 miles an hour to hitting a brick wall. And so I've never been home this much. But you know what? It has been good. One of the good things that has come out of this is that BS with Todd is successful. Your Low Voltage Nation is successful. And I think without these goofy times, we wouldn't have had the opportunity to potentially meet.
That's true.
And again, spread the word. I'm basically kind of micro focused on labeling. I love talking about the industry in general. Back in the day when I was installing the first twisted pair ever, which in this case was barbed wire. That's how far I go back. And so I love the industry and talking about the industry and learning new stuff about the industry. And as an example, that little strain relief. You can see I've got some traditional type of cable management here, but you know what? It's going a long way. And, labeling has come a long way. And there's more to come. And stay tuned, Blake, yourself, because we've got some new products coming out. We do have some new products that are just hit. In fact, Blake, I need to get you some samples. The new flags, I showed this a couple of weeks ago, but this is something very interesting. The new flags we have here versus a traditional flag, and you can actually go both ways with this. Be careful where you say that. And we also have a self-laminated option too, traditional self-laminated. So, Blake, I need to get you some of those samples. I think you're going to be really, really impressed with the flag. It at least with me, it was taking 50% less labor versus a traditional flag. Doing something like this. So we've got new printers coming out. Blake, one of the things I'd like to do is get some of the new stuff in your hand to get a kind of a real, time assessment of it versus, somebody jaded as myself. So we got some new machines coming out.
Sweet.
We have some new desktop machines. We're starting to do more and more with the barcodes. And so I think this is going to be a fantastic relationship between Brother Industrial Solutions and Low Voltage Nation. I mean, so far, it's working well. It's working really well.
So far, so good.
So what we're going to do now is, Blake, I appreciate your time on this, man. I know that the half an hour goes by real quick. As far as your show times and stuff like that, I am going to show a slide at the end of this. It's got all your contact information on there. But what are your regular podcast schedules out there? Do you have?
So we try to put one out each week. We actually have a couple going right now. So we have the flagship Low Voltage Nation podcast. That's like the interview show that I do with another person to bring them in and talk about what they do. So that one, I try to do one a week, but I've been kind of slow on that. But we have another podcast called MSP Weekly. And that one, there's a round table, and then we do interviews on that one. So Managed Service Provider Weekly, MSP Weekly. That's with Brandon Weber, Marco Chafiat, and Ray Klein. So those are 3 other dudes in Low Voltage Nation. And that's a good one. That's a weekly, as the name implies. So
well, make sure, and I don't know if we got that on our slide today, but make sure you send me that information, because everything is all virtual and social media now, and the more people out there that you have to help your cause, like in this case, you're helping our cause. Obviously, we want to keep everybody in the know on that. Hey, Blake, where are you at, by the way? I mean, I forgot to ask you.
Yeah, I'm based out of Nashville, Tennessee. So I'm downtown. I have an office at the Entrepreneur Center, and then I work out of my new apartment. I just got a new one. So yeah, Nashville, Tennessee.
And the only reason I mention that is time zones. I'm here on the West Coast, and
that's right. Yeah.
So no early calls or emails or stuff like that. Just keep that in mind, if you will. So, with that being said, we're going to show your information at the end. Blake, I sincerely appreciate your time this morning coming on. It was kind of all over the place, but that's the way I want it, man. This is totally unscripted, unprepared, sometimes unprofessional, and I think that's the way people like it. They don't like the scripted stuff. And so again, I thank you very much, Blake. With that being said, we're going to roll the credits at the end here. So again, appreciate you.
Sweet. Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it.
You betcha. So December 3rd, I told you I've got my real life brother on here, Mr. Sam Morse, who is one of the owners of SoftTech Maintenance up in Fort Collins, Colorado. He's an RCDD. He's an MCRE. He's an ASS. But you know what? The dude is smart. I got the looks. He got the brains. That's all there is to it. I wouldn't want it any other way. But anyway, Sam's going to be jumping on board. Me and Sam have had a couple of contracting companies in the past. Sam knows labeling very well. He knows infrastructure very well. He's a real cool data dude. We're going to have him on board. Chuck, I'm going to get you on board here too. And then Ian, thanks for tuning in. Ian, I'm going to get to your email after that. But with that being said, on the 17th, I'm going to do a little bit of, live shop stuff. I'm going to have sanders, and I'm going to have grinders, and I'm going to show you just how tough our label is. I'm going to show that to you live. Now, that may change a little bit. But as far as contacting us, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or if you need free bad advice at any time, you know where to get a hold of me. So as you all know, I'm Todd. Oh, you know what? I don't have my Todd shirt on today, so I'm sure there's all sorts of people confused out there. Anyway, I'm Todd Morse. I'm here in Carlsbad, California. All right. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful day today. No snow. We got Mr. Jamie Brook over in Virginia Beach. He's my counterpart on the other side of the river. Mr. Dan Cobb is also out there. He's somewhere in Wisconsin. Mr. Bruce Page, well, he's on the East Coast, like it says. Mr. Rob Dawkins out of North Carolina. And our glorious leader, Mr. Craig Robinson, hails out of Bradenton, Florida, kind of near Sarasota, I'm told. With that being said, I really appreciate everybody, and this is perfect, 10:29. I appreciate everybody getting on board. If you have any questions, please contact me. Go to brothermobilesolutions.com. We do have our BICSI certified training that you can get 2 CECs. That is available as well. And stay tuned. Big things are happening in the world of labeling, and it's moving pretty fast. And even though society's kind of slowing down a little bit, we're speeding up. So again, I appreciate everyone's support out there. If you need anything, reach out to me anytime. There's Blake's information right there. Blake is my new best friend. So contact Blake with any questions, or if you want an inquiry about Low Voltage Nation, please get a hold of Blake. This will be posted. All these videos will be posted, I think, on YouTube and some other places that I don't know. Anyway, if you need to see this again, it's always on brothermobilesolutions.com. Blake, thank you very much. Stay warm in Nashville. Fantastic work. And we really appreciate your support, Blake. I mean, I'm telling you, thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. This has been great, man. I really appreciate it.
All right. You all be good out there. Please stay healthy. Please stay safe. Questions, comments, concerns, you know where to get a hold of us. Thank you very much. Todd out.